Okay, guys, today we will be reacting to uh, the Momo Hinamori analysis, character analysis. Alright, so I did Devante Sonic Forms short reaction from Devante, the one. He makes a lot of good anime shorts and up until the current ongoing Devante Black arc. But yeah, let's do this because I'm waiting to see what he says to defend Momo from the haters. She deserves much better than being done dirty.
She's like, well, maybe. Okay, Aizen did stab me, and he did betray everybody, but he must have had a good reason. He must have been like manipulated by Gin or somebody, right? Like, there's got to be a way. You got to understand. And so, at that moment, Yamamoto just like does this, just. And then she just passes out again, like, oh, sorry, Toshiro, yeah, we thought she was, yeah, we're taking care of her, Unohana's gonna, bring her back to the medical division, we'll be okay. Oh, man. So then,
I mean, like, Sosuke himself was kind of justified because he was trying to escape a flawed system. And it's kind of revealed later that his backstory is actually pretty tragic because he lost both his wife, his son, and his whole family got like a target on their backs and they were killed by Central 46. So it's kind of obvious why he wanted revenge on them. And he also hated like the Soul Society's like laws, so he rebelled against that too. And basically he turned on like all the Soul Reapers there. I mean, I know Soul Society is kind of corrupt, but they kind of like protect people from hollows, but they kind of like do it out of their law. But still, like Sosuke had like every right to be like upset and a bit rebellious because he was trying to escape a flawed system that was so fundamentally corrupt and broken and evil that he was just like, even through extreme measures, trying to put the world back to good. Even if he has those like extreme drastic measures that he takes.
began at Fate Karakura, which we think, like, okay, she's recovered, and at this point she was talking to Rangiku, and she's kind of like, alright, I understand that Aizen is a traitor to the Soul Society. I understand what he's trying to do. He's trying to wipe out Karakura Town to make an Oken, to kill the Soul King who we're trying to protect. I get that. Don't worry. I will fight against Captain Aizen. And, oh God, it's so freaking sad. It's sad because it's like, it's sort of real the way Kubo depicts this, right? It's just like, you're not going to be able to flip the switch so simply where it's just like, oh yeah, this is someone that I respect, and then all of a sudden just like, oh, he's an enemy? Alright, well, we're going to eliminate him. And yes, I understand the rest of the Gotei, they felt betrayed too, like all the captains did, right? But they understood the situation right away that they had been had. Momo, being the lieutenant of Aizen for so long, felt like, okay, I know him better than all the other captains. I know him better than the other lieutenants. It has to be, there has to be some other angle to this that they're not looking at, right? So it took Momo such a long time to finally accept what really happened with Aizen. And even in that moment when she arrives to help out Rangiku against the Thrace Bestia, Haribel's Fraxion, she sets up that Keto net. She was pretty badass in that fight. She showed up with Tobiyume, she set up that Keto net, and they ran right into it, and it boom, blew them up and whatever. Her and Rangiku had a pretty cool tag team battle there, but it was a sad moment where she's still calling Aizen Captain Aizen. And Rangiku she notices, but she chooses not to bring it up. Because, Momo was going on this spiel about, like, it's okay, Rangiku, I'm better now, I understand Captain Aizen is a traitor, it's okay, I'm good, we can fight now. And then Rangiku's like, noticed you probably didn't, but you called him Captain Aizen just now. So it's like in her subconscious, she's still holding on to that, because that's how she referred to him for years as his lieutenant, right? So, yeah. And so, if you think the trauma dial wasn't dialed up enough, then we have a moment where all of the members of the Goatee are kind of gathered together. Momo gets taken down by Ion for a bit, so she and Rangiku are kind of being healed by Izuru and everybody. But all the captains, meanwhile, are fighting against Aizen after all the Espada have fallen, okay? So they're fighting Aizen, and everything seems to be going good. Remember the chapter where we actually thought the captains had an upper hand on Aizen? Where it was like, okay, they're all attacking him at once. Soiphone's using her clones. Komamura summons the freaking Kokucho Tengen Myo. You got, Kyoraku using the shadow powers, everything. There was that bullshit moment where Soiphone tries to use the 2 hits certain death, and she's like, 2 hits certain death. Aha! And then Aizen's just like, sorry, Soiphone, but Shinigami battles are battles of Ryatsu and hair. And I'm sorry, my Ryatsu and my hair is just way better and way cooler than anything you have.
Flexing. Straight up flexing. Like, okay. Bro, Sosuke's one of like the coldest like villains ever. Not only can you understand his goals, but like he be flexing every freaking time that he can basically genjutsu everybody and turn them on each other without them even realizing that it's all an illusion that they're falling into to be part of his trap. But then he still be flexing with the hair and the drip. Like it's probably like one of the most villainous like anime like flexors. Now, I'm not using any meme context words because they're freaking annoying and everybody dick rides that shit. So, yeah, but basically, Sosuke freaking cooks and he flexes his power. Like, he flexes that he has like one of the highest Reiatsus that freaking Ichigo had to come in and beat his ass. Yeah, he's one of hell of a fucking flexor, even for like a villain.
Hit certain death. It still wouldn't work against me because I'm Aizen, right? I'm on a whole new level here, and so that sucked. And so you got the moment, though, where Toshiro's in Daigoren Kyorimaru, and he's, like, just charging right at Aizen, like, gonna run him right through. And, look, Toshiro, not as bad as Momo, but Toshiro also gets wrecked by Aizen quite a bit as well, right? So we're like, oh, yeah, I'm sure it's gonna be Toshiro that's going to get the final attack on Aizen. Toshiro is going to be the one to run him through and end all of this. Not Ichigo, not Yamamoto. It's going to be Toshiro, the one that got wrecked by Aizen the second he went into his Bankai back in the Soul Society, right? Just like, Aizen, Daigoren Kyorimaru, done, right? So we're thinking that, but then you have the moment where we cut over to Shinji with Sakanade off to the side, and Aizen, like, realizes at the last minute, like, oh shit, it's all reversed. And there's different translations for all of these, but I specifically remember the version that I read back then. Aizen was like, oh shit, everything's reversed. But by the time he realizes that, BAM! He just gets rammed through this back with Toshiro's Bankai. And I'm like, holy crap, that actually worked! That actually made sense! Okay, cool! Toshiro did it! Well, he certainly did do it. He definitely stabbed someone. But it was Momo. Because as Aizen also describes, oh, that was so cute. By the way, Kyoka Suigetsu. Alright, so it doesn't matter if you have a Zanpakuto that can reverse things, or you have one that can freeze things, or you have one that can summon a giant, or you have one that can kill someone in 2 hits, or you have something that can control shadows or whatever. That doesn't matter, because I can mess with everything. I can make you think that you're fighting a freaking frog over here, and the frog is me, right? I can do anything with this power. So, Toshiro ended up stabbing Momo. who they have a connection as well, because Momo basically viewed Toshiro as like a little brother growing up. She would always go by Toshiro at his grandmother's place. Little Shiro was her nickname for Toshiro, and then she eventually went off to the academy and everything like that. So they're like, yeah, had that kind of like relationship there. And so that was like, you know, like Aizen knew what he was doing too, because Aizen the entire time, he's like, all right, I'm gonna use Kyoka's Suigetsu to, you know, find someone and just like swap out like the substitution jutsu from Naruto or whatever. It's just like, who can I pick? Oh, Momo's here. Oh, okay, well, I know what I'm gonna do. So he swaps out himself for Momo, and Toshiro runs her through, and then you just see the scene with her body there, and just the bags under her eyes and the blood coming out of her mouth, and just, little Shiro, why? Why, though? Oh, and you know, Toshiro at that moment was like, oh, crap! Sorry, Momo, I didn't mean to. Blood everywhere. Oh, man, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I'll freeze the wound. Oh, man. Oh, God. So, yeah. On top of everything, that's like the cherry on the messed up sundae, is it not? Yeah, that's that. So she gets taken out of the battle. She doesn't die, thankfully. She doesn't die. You know, that would have been just like, oh yeah, Kubo's like, okay, well, this character goes through so much trauma, and then Toshiro just ends up stabbing her thinking she was Aizen, and then she just dies. And that's the arc of Momo Hinamori. That would have been really messed up. But no, anyway, so she survives and she makes it through, and thankfully, now granted, I haven't read all of the light novel stuff, so there might be some more stuff there. But thankfully, at least for the rest of the manga canon, Momo seems okay. We don't really see her at all, or not very often, during the Fullbring arc. If she does show up, it's not until like the last chapter of the Fullbring arc. But during the 1,000-Year Blood War arc, we see her being the lieutenant. She's still the lieutenant under Squad 5 under Shinji now, and that relationship is a lot more healthy. You know, for one thing, Shinji is a duplicitous traitor, right? So, and I think Shinji understands more than anything, because Shinji was Aizen's captain back during Turn Back the Pendulum, and so he understands what it is to be betrayed by him and like his nature and everything. So I like to imagine, like, after the battle was over, after Fate Karakura was over, after Momo's wounds were healed, either by Unohana or Orihime or whoever, after her physical wounds were healed anyway, you know, after she spent a few weeks resting in the 4th Division, after Shinji and Kensei and Rose went back to the Soul Society and be like, okay, we'll be the new captains, you know, so this all takes place during the 17-month time skip when Ichigo lost his powers. Eventually, I like to think that there was a meeting where Shinji, when he becomes the new captain of Squad 5, they bring him up to speed on everything that happened with Momo. And they're like, okay, here's the deal, Shinji. You're the new captain of Squad 5. You know, we're reinstating your post as Squad 5 captain. And Shinji's like, yeah, I'll do that, because, you know, Aizen messed everything up. As long as you understand that we weren't really criminals, I'll come back. You know, Kensei and Rose, they all resumed their positions. And they explained, he's like, okay, here's the deal. So, your lieutenant, the current lieutenant of Squad 5, is a woman named Momo Hinamori, but she was the lieutenant under Aizen for many years, and so Shinji knew right away what that meant. Like, oh, okay, well, how bad is she? And just like, oh, well, she's, yeah, Aizen messed her up pretty bad. You know, it's so... I would imagine they gave Momo an option. Like, they were like, hey, Momo, you know, if you want to retire from all this, if you just want to, like, you know, leave the Gotei and go and live in the Rukongai with your family, or, you know, maybe do something, maybe not even be a lieutenant anymore, if you want to do another job in the Seirete, like, that's fine. That's cool. No one is going to look down on you or think less of you for that after everything that happened with you with Aizen, right? But Momo decided, no, this, you know, I want to still be the lieutenant of Squad 5. This is still my division. And she wasn't. We don't really know anybody else in Squad 5, unfortunately, other than Momo and Aizen. Other than like maybe some other random people that were, you know, shown at like once in the story. But they were all betrayed by Aizen as well. So it's like Momo's like, no, I want to still be the lieutenant for their sake. You know, they went through pretty much everything that I did. It's like, okay, Momo went through a little bit more, but you know what I mean? Like, it's just like, I want to be there for my division, my squad, you know, I want to be there for them. And I like to think there was a moment where Shinji sat down with Momo, and they had a long talk about everything that happened. And so, you know, Shinji talked about everything that happened with Aizen, with his past, and turned back the pendulum and what he did. And just like literally the dude warped my physiology. Like, I am a visor. I have hollow powers inside of me because of what he did. And Momo would explain everything that happened there. And so Shinji are like, you know, you still want to be the lieutenant of this division. I'm going to be your new captain. You know, we can do this, or if you want another task, I can put you somewhere else. It doesn't have to be a lieutenant job. And I think that Momo was like, that's kind of you, but I want to stay the lieutenant for my division, and everyone here knows me. And you know, I think we can make this work. And so Shinji's like, okay. And then so it's just like, let's rebuild the 5th division together. You know, let's not let Aizen win here. Let's not let the 5th division fall into this state because of everything that Aizen did. We are better than him. We survived him. We can move forward, right? And so I think that's like Shinji and Momo stood up at that point, like.
Well, I mean, she has more justice done to her. She gets her character more justice. Like, she has like a more complete character arc in the official Kazuto timeline, the alternate timeline of Bleach that significantly like diverged after the fake Karakura arc. Basically, after that, the 1,000-Year Blood War was so different from the original 1,000-Year Blood War. Like, Kazuto was born like right after that fake Karakura arc, because instead of Orihime, Ishigo gets with Rukia, and then Kazuto has the Kuchiki potential, and he also has like Ishigo's like hybrid status powers, except he masters all of them, and he becomes like the prophesized god of realms. And then he solos Yuha Baha and like the Quincy's, and he also breaks out of the cage that like Quilji guy, the Quilji Quincy like Stern Ritter did on Ishigo. But except instead of only on Ishigo, it was in the like all 3 of them. But Ishigo, Kazuto teamed up. Basically, Kazuto and Rukia used like a Hito spell that dispelled it, and then they went to the Serite, and then like all 3 of them, they whooped ass, and like the Stern Ritters just left after that, and then they faced Yuha Baha like after, and this time like Ishigo doesn't lose his sword, but he actually evolves it. He basically evolves it into like the two blades that he would have gotten when he started reforging it. But yeah, basically that he still has the 2 dual Zangetsu blades, and then he loses to Yuha Baha, but Kazuto just one-shots him with like a 1 stab, because he uses his Shikai's like mirror void, and then he proceeds to transition into the Bankai, the Judgment Realm, and he freezes, like paralyzes the mind of Yuha Baha, and while his body is in a stasis outside of that realm, and then, since it's all in his head, he stabs him, and then he just dies immediately, and then they all hail Kazuto as the great hero who saved the Serite, and then like at some point there's basically a 3-year or 2-year time skip, but Kazuto basically Kazuto basically like awakens his god form. He beats freaking Sosuke, like, and then they go to like Waco Mundo. They go to like the four demons, and then like Team Hero. So basically, at this point of time, Akuma freaking takes over Waco Mundo and tortures all the Arrancar there, and then so they like they basically convince Ukora and Grimmjow to join their side, and then Team Ichigo, and like Kazuto included, they basically team up against Akuma, and then Kazuto awakens his god form, and then he starts like evolving it to the full god form, which is basically his mind doesn't signal him for him to move. He just moves on his own, and he fights with like full offense without even thinking. So basically his mind is just shut off, but his movements are basically infinite. So basically it's like he has like a form of ultra instinct or something, and he gets the silver hair, and then he started bullying the fuck out of Akuma, and then freaking he just like banishes him from Waco Mundo, and he just returns to hell. And also, he also met like Tengu, who went on a rampage because apparently, because of the trauma from Akuma enslaving the demon race, he took all that anger to the Soul Society and the Soul Reapers and killed them all. And then like Masaki's like plus spirit revived them all with her spiritual energy, so it was all good. But like Tengu also found out he was a prince. He wanted to surpass Kazuto, but he does it on good terms. So basically he becomes like the main rival friend duel of that Kazuto becomes a part of. So they basically become like the two friendly rivals. And then like after the Akuma fight, which secretly Momo was watching that shit, but nobody really knows where she was positioned to watch that shit, because apparently she praises him for saving like the Serite, the saving Waco Mundo and the Serite, because she heard about the Serite one, and then somehow she was watching the Waco Mundo one, so she praises him. And then like and then at some point she develops a crush on him, and then Kazuto like kind of gets weirded out that Momo's been following him around, and he shows like kind of like as if he's just so fucking annoyed with her following him. But yeah, apparently like Momo's more conflicted with her feelings for Kazuto and with her crush, but she also has hope that it will grow into something more. But then Kazuto, his age at the time was pretty young, so there was like a large, like at least like a 9 or 8 year age gap at that time. But then Kazuto went back to like the world of the living, went to the freaking like Ichigo school to like study. And he also, there's another time skip. This time it's 3 years, and then he's like a teenager, and then Kazuto's still doing his hero work, but this time Tengu's an ally, still just trying to surpass Kazuto because of demon pride. And then as soon as Kazuto goes to freaking like Serite again, Kazuto gets jumped, like, okay, not jumped, he gets freaking tackled by Momo, who is praising him again. So basically, this man keeps getting glazed by his future wife, and then he's still annoyed that she's been following him around, and he tries to get her off her back, but she just keeps following him around, and he just left to the world of the living, and then she just goes into the okay, she goes into the like the portal thing that goes into the like the living world, follows him there, And then Kazuto gets embarrassed that like Momo's been following him around, and then Hollows take over, and then Tengu, Kazuto, and Momo go to fight it, and then Momo actually gets hurt here, and then Kazuto like tends to her, but then he realizes that she ain't waking up, so he goes to a freaking berserk rage and freaking slaughters all the fucking like hollows in his base state, and then with his like Zanpakuto, the Tempobatsu no Senmetsuken. Basically, he uses Tempobatsu, uses like all of its like signature elements, and destroys them, and then he like checks on Momo again, and then she was actually unconscious, so he actually like he confesses all his feelings for her that he reciprocated based on her own feelings, and then they started dating after that, and then during those dating phases, he was also training her to hone her like Soul Reaper combat skills, and with her Zanpakuto. So she actually gets pretty far, and she gets so far up on her potential that she unlocks her own Bankai, which turns her into a literal Soul Reaper angel, which is like, it's called Kaika Tobiyome, and it's like she basically gets ribbons. She gets ribbons like around her shoulders and forearms. She gets like these translucent angel wings, and she has the power to control her now white divine flames into any construct she wants. So yeah, she actually does reach her peak, and basically that's all from training through Kazuto, because Kazuto, as much as a hero Kazuto is, he has a passion for engagement like no other. So he basically practices, like makes Momo practice her skills until she reaches her peak. So basically she has a new prime now, and basically that prime is basically what gets her into joining Team Hero as the third strongest member. Toshiro also joins, and then Tengu joins after that, and then the fourth became Team Hero. And then the team got an S rank, and they were labeled super as a super team. And then yeah, then there's like those new arcs where Ushi or like the four legendary demons, like yeah, they basically like the four, like I think like 4 or 5 demons, like they do like they basically fight those guys, and then after that Telugu is born because Tengu meets Nelio, and then they get married and have a child, and then Momo and Kazuto get married, and they have like Mokato and Mozu. So basically they have like Mokato's adventures as the next generation to like surpass Kazuto whenever he's like not around on the realms, because he travels a lot. I mean, he is the prophesized god of realms, so yeah. But yeah, like comparing Momo to the original timeline, but like her development in the alternate timeline of the Kazuto timeline, the Momo of the Kazuto timeline is way stronger and taps into more of her potential than the original timeline, how they did her, like how Tyke originally did her, because she was done dirty, and I don't even know why Tyke had to sleep on her fucking character and potential. But yeah, alright, I'm gonna start recording the other half right after this, because this is somewhat of a 27 minute video, So I'm gonna have to split this into two. Alright.
Like, all right, let's do it. And so we don't have a lot of moments with Shinji and Momo throughout the course of the Thousand Year Blood War arc, unfortunately. We get, like, I think one moment where they show up to help out Komamura with Bambietta, because there was that scene where, you know, Shinji shows up with Sakanade and, like, warps Bambietta's, you know, perception and everything. So we got moments like that, and they seem to have kind of like sort of like a quirky back and forth thing where Shinji pretends to like not really care, or Shinji's very jokey, very sarcastic. So Shinji will show up on a battlefield and be like, "Hey, it looks like you needed some help here, Komamura. Well, I was just passing through. I thought I'd stop by and lend a hand." And then Momo will be off to the side like, "That's not true. We sensed that you needed help and we came because we're here to help you because we're the Gotei and, you know, we're all friends here." You know, so that's like their kind of quirky thing there. Momo doesn't really have any major fight during the Thousand Year Blood War arc, and that's unfortunate because, you know, she has a really cool Zanpakuto, Tobi Yume, that's a Kido-based Zanpakuto that basically controls fire, or rather she channels her Kido into the blade to, like, fire, you know, giant, you know, Shakaho blasts or whatever, and she can set up, like, Kido nets, and she's an expert in Kido, right? And so, you know, that would be really cool to see that again, and she does utilize Kido a few times throughout the arc. But you know what? She didn't get into a fight, or the fight that she did get into was off-screen or whatever. Maybe in the anime coming up, we'll see maybe an extra scene where she gets involved in something. But at least she didn't get stabbed again, right? You know what I mean? Like, you know, first time by Aizen and then by Toshiro, it's just like, you know what, Momo? At least in the final arc, you didn't get traumatized or you didn't get stabbed by anybody, right? Okay, at least that's a positive. Okay, so that's good for her, all right? She made it through that, you know, in one piece. So, and, you know, does she even go to the Soul Palace either? I think she does. I'm remembering a scene with her and Shinji during the Soul Palace, but it doesn't really go anywhere. It's the same thing like Shinji never really used his Bankai throughout the course of that. So Shinji, aside from that one bout with Herald Valkyrie, Shinji doesn't even really get a full-fledged battle in the final arc of this story. And so Momo's kind of always tagging along with him, though. But at any rate, Momo at the epilogue anyway, she's still the lieutenant under Shinji, and everything seems to be bright for the future, moving on from that moment. So, yeah, certainly not a prominent character in terms of battles, but what Kubo, I think, was definitely going with Momo here is that trying to express the more human aspect of these characters, right? Yes, they are soldiers that fight for this military unit, but when it comes to something like betrayal, especially the kind of betrayal that Aizen, you know, orchestrated, you know, over the course of centuries, there's those that are going to respond with rage, like the way Komamura responded. There's going to be those that respond in a much more calm manner, like Kyoraku and Yamamoto. They were surprised by it, but they were all business. They were like, Aizen defected, okay, we need to deal with this. And then there are those that are going to respond with disbelief or trying to, like, justify some way, like he can't be a traitor, it had to be something else, right? And that are seriously going to be traumatized by that, as I said, and are going to take a very long time to get over that. And it doesn't happen right away with Momo. It takes quite a while. And I would imagine after the moment that happened with Toshiro, she was bedridden for even longer after that, right? But eventually she did fight through it, and she did get to a point where she can stand on her own 2 feet, and she can be the lieutenant, and she can help out with Shinji to rebuild the division. And it's probably a lot better now than it was when Aizen was running it, right? So I also wanted to go into, and I talked about this a little bit earlier, but a little bit about the flashbacks that we get with her and how she grew up with Toshiro and everybody. And that's the thing with Momo. It's like she doesn't have a dramatic backstory or a really sad tragedy that occurred in her past. She has a sad tragedy in the present that occurred in the story, right? Her upbringing seemed fine, right? She grew up in a nice part of the Rukongai. She was friends with Toshiro and his grandmother, and she would visit them often and, you know, make them food and whatever. And then Toshiro would have that, like, little brother kind of like, you know, whatever, quit doting on me. And Momo was like, oh, little Shiro, you know, it's all good, you know. Well, your big sis has to head off into the Seirete to go to college, go to Soul Reaper College, so I'm not going to be around here anymore. And so that's kind of a nice, wholesome moment. And then she goes to the Reijutsu Academy. She's an honor student there. She's a freaking whiz when it comes to Kido, much more so than like Renji was. You know, Izuru a little bit. Izuru ended up working in the 4th Division for a little while. And then we have the whole flashback where Momo, Izuru, and Renji had that mission in the world of living with Shuhei. And then the Hollows attacked, also orchestrated by Aizen and Gin. And then Aizen shows up with his then Lieutenant Gin, and then they fight against them. And it was like Aizen at that moment was like sowing the seeds, right? He was like, oh, I'm going to show up and make myself look out to be this amazing captain that saved their lives. And they're going to look up to me with respect and admiration. And then they're going to be right in the palms of my hands. And so they were. And so right after they graduated, Aizen accepted Renji, Izuru, and Momo into the 5th Division. So they all started off in the 5th Division, okay? And then after Aizen got to know their personalities a little bit more, he's like, okay, so Renji is out. Renji is too much of like a wild kind of guy. He's not going to be able to be reined in as much. I'm going to send him off to, I don't know, it's the Rockies division. Send him off to the 11th Division. And I'm sure it was like a really like where Renji shows up that day and he's like, Captain, what is this? I'm being reassigned to the 11th Division? I'm sure Aizen spun some freaking golden bullshit there where he's...
It was not the 11th division. It was actually the 6th, like Byakuya's division. I'm sorry, Tekken, but you got your freaking information mixed up. You got freaking false information over here. It was not the 11th division. That was freaking Kenpachi. I suggest you look at it again and check what division he was assigned to, because it was definitely not the 11th. It was clearly stated in the anime and in the manga he was assigned to the 6th division of Byakuya's like division. And I don't call them squads like the English dub does, because that was a localization. Yeah, I prefer to call it divisions.
He's like, Renji, I've been watching you for years. I've been watching your battle prowess. I think the 5th Division is just maybe not the place for you. Your place is in the Vanguard. Your place is in the 11th Division to train your strength, so you can protect the Seirete even better. That is your duty as a member of the Gotei. I will always cherish the time you spent in my division. I have high hopes for you, Renji. I believe in you. This is your mission now. You know Aizen spun some crap like that, and Renji was like, Captain, ever since you saved us back in the world of living, I've respected you. You're one of my favorites. You're going to always be my first captain, but I'm going to go now and I'm going to train under Captain Zaraki. You go, Renji. They probably even gave like a little going away party for him and everything. Momo and Izuru were there just like, oh, Renji, good luck. And then he's like, okay, now Izuru. Now here's the thing. Izuru also said he was a member of the 4th Division for a little while, so that means he spent time in the 5th Division, the 3rd Division, and the 4th Division. I don't know where Izuru got transferred to the 4th Division. I guess we'll talk about that more when we get to his video. But, you know, Aizen was like, you know what? I think he would be a good pawn for Gin to manipulate. He might even be a good red herring in the future if we ever want somebody to like, oh, maybe he's the traitor. So he moves Izuru over to the 3rd Division under Gin, and then he needs a new lieutenant, so he's like, well, Momo. She's obviously the one that I'm going to be able to manipulate the most, so I'll keep her as my lieutenant. And she'll think that I'm so awesome and so great.
And literally, like, okay, like I could kind of get why Kazuto freaking, like, went ham on fucking Sosuke and freaking beat his ass with the power he had, but, like, even though he, like, understood, like, why Sosuke did, like, what his plan told him to do, but he still couldn't forgive it, nor could he justify it, nor could he acknowledge that it could ever be justified, because, like, what he did to Momo was just kind of unforgivable, and, like, in the Kazuto timeline, he, like, basically, like, made, like, Momo kill Sosuke out of like spite. But I mean, like, while he probably did understand and empathize with Sosuke's pain and tragic past, he still couldn't at all justify what he did. But even though Sosuke is probably like one of the most understandable villains in history of Bleach.
And, she's not even gonna... Remember back when Shinji, like, knew that Aizen was messed up? Like, Aizen was, like, doing stuff behind Shinji's back, and Shinji knew that. He just didn't know to the extent. Shinji didn't know it was to that level with the Hogyoku and the visors and everything. Shinji just took one look at Aizen and was just like, okay, you're kind of full of bullshit. I can kind of see that right away. But it wasn't like that with Aizen and with Momo at all. Aizen was just like, she's not going to think that I'm going to be doing, anything with the Hogyoku or, being, betraying the Soul Society or anything. She's not even going to think twice because she respects me that much, So that was the reason he kept Momo around. And so that's the real tragedy right there. It's just like, my God. But, and there was the scene where she was having a trouble sleeping one time. And, everything that's going on in the Soul Society when Ichigo and the Ryoka broke in. And so she shows up at Aizen's office and just like, Aizen, I can't sleep. And just like, I'm sorry. And so he's like, oh, don't worry, Momo. Come in. Tell me all of your problems and then you can fall asleep. You can stay here as long as you like. It's okay. And so it was like a place of comfort for her, to go to Aizen, to her captain whenever she was having problems or troubles or whatever, someone to talk to. And just all of that got ripped away. So she didn't deserve that. Momo didn't deserve that. My God. But, hell, like I said, she's better at the end of the story by the epilogue. She's, recovered. So maybe not completely. Like, she still might have nightmares from it. She still might always think of that for the rest of her days. But moving toward the future. And hey, ending out with that last, I'll pull that up for you. Just, I was rereading the last chapter of Bleach the other day. And so there's that one scene at the very end of the story when Aizen is remembering when Yuha was defeated. And I just realized that's kind of messed up that I'm... Like, remember, he's like, in order to remember Momo, remember that one quote that Aizen made that one time? But no, at the end of the story, the overall message was courage and hope. That's how Yuha's last vestiges were able to be destroyed by Kazui, Ichigo's son. That courage, that hope for the future. Even though Aizen was the one quoting that, that's kind of messed up. But
Kazui's best feat is just doing that, though. That's his best feat. And it's still pretty pathetic, because, like, Kazui is not the son that we deserve. He shouldn't even be getting his own series, and I'm glad that the Hell arc was just like a one shot, because there is no way that the feedback of the fans would actually allow this freaking new generation Kazui to freaking do anything related that could surpass Ichigo. The only character that could actually do that and has done that is the alternate timeline, alternate son of Ichigo, who only exists because he was born through Rukia and Ichigo, who got married in that timeline. And Kazuto is one of the best things that have ever happened in Bleach. He also freaking like he freaking has this passion for fighting. He has this dream of being a hero, and he's honestly one of the strongest characters because of his constant training. And also he unites like Tengu and like Toshiro and Momo all together to this like S-rank super team called Team Hero. And I really like his relationship with Momo, because it's like, okay, yes, Kazuto did get like sensitive to Momo, because like first she didn't trust him, which made like Kazuto feel like insecure, and he ran away to like his dad's like old room, and then but then there's another instance. They were having the peak of their relationship, but then it just goes like broken again, because the strain of the relationship, like he treats her well, he treats her as like the most important thing for her life, and then she just falls silent, and yeah, and then he goes to a freaking breakdown again, and freaking he just couldn't freaking say anything in his like new Rokongai home with Ishigo, and then he just like walked away from her, and like yeah, that broke Momo, like that broke Momo, because she was like, she realized that she was basically pushing away the man she started loving, and yeah, Kazuto was just so insecure at that time, and then but in the end they did work throughout all their problems, and Kazuto accepted that she's made mistakes, and he commits to the promise they made, that they would get married one day, and he marries her. And then after a few arcs, they've been married for good, and they worked out the relationship, and they're like wife and husband, and they're like perfect, like, cause like Kazuto probably knows that Momo has been there for him ever since they met, because like, even though he probably like, he may have acted like annoyed, he may have acted annoyed that she was following him around, but he had his own insecurities that kind of caused that kind of reaction. So yeah, that was like the best part of like the psychological aspects of Kazuto and Momo's relationship, because they have like one of the best romances. I believe they're called like their canon couple name is called like Mozuto or something. But yeah, like I rock with like Ishiruki too, because that was like that was the couple that birthed this couple, and they're like I will always never forget. I will always remember that the Mozuto couple is gonna be like one of the best relationships to ever exist in Bleach.
Still, that's the overall message here by the end of the story. And so moving on to, you know, better pastures, I suppose. So yeah, that's pretty much everything. Don't know anything about her Bankai. It would probably be a very Keto-based, you know, kind of Bankai, very similar to her Shikai, of course. Probably next to, like, if we're only talking lieutenants, so we're not getting captains involved, like Byakuya, who's obviously really good with Keto, and, like, Yamamoto. I would say in terms of lieutenants, the best ones that are good at Keto, battle Keto, like Hados, would be Momo, Rukio. When she was a lieutenant, she was good at that. Nanao is really good at Keto. You know, Isane is as well, but that's more healing Keto, Kaido. But when it comes to the Hados and stuff, probably Momo would be the best suited for that in conjunction with Tobe Yume. But, yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video, and so now, who we're going to talk about next, I don't know. Round and round and round the poster goes. Where it stops, it's right here. That's Cayenne. We already talked about him. Now it's starting to get difficult, because some of these characters are way in the background here. Alright, hold on, I don't know if it's upside down or not, so right here. Isane, we already talked about. Actually, no. That was more toward Maurecchio's wrist. So, okay, we'll talk about Maurecchio Omaida, the lieutenant of Squad 2, next time under Soyphone. So let's see what's up with him. He's more than meets the eye. He's more than meets the eye. Actually, Kubo tried to focus a lot on Maurecchio's development, I think, in the last arc of the story. Like, at first, it was just, like, some big oaf. Like, I'm the big, tough guy that's stupid and eats a lot of chips. That's my character. You know, but throughout the Fake Karakura, we found out some new stuff about him. And then during the last arc, you know, trying to protect his sister and everything from, like, BG9 and everything, that was actually pretty cool for his character. We got some new stuff for Maurecchio. So we'll talk about him next time. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Teching and Barry, signing out. Later, everyone. Oh, poor Momo, though.
Alright guys, that was it for the video. Now, stay tuned, because in about 5 seconds, I'm gonna start my review, and I have a lot to say about this. I'll see you in the review section. See you there. Okay guys, here is the review section. Now, okay, gonna mute that. All right, now, uh, this was a good this was a good character analysis. It defended all of like Momo's points without bringing up all the hate from the toxic like Bleach fans. Like, thankfully, no hater is brought up in this video, and it's just a fair character analysis. But I agree that like Sosuke would be like flexing his power a lot, and he'd be flexing that he has like strong Reiatsu that could just like destroy things with just like his spiritual pressure alone. But yeah, like I mean, he was kind of justified if we're taking into account the original timeline. He was pretty much justified there. But if we're talking about if he's still justified in the Kazuto timeline, I don't think he is. Cause Kazuto like beat his ass and then Momo executed him. So I don't think he was like exactly justified in the same way he would be in the original timeline, but yeah. In terms of like peaks, Ichigo would be like the peak of the original timeline, but for better protagonists and better protagonists in depth and in terms of relationships and powers, I would say Kazuto is the peak of the Kazuto timeline because the timeline is named after him. And his relationship with Momo is like, it's pretty good. Like, we have like Ichigo and Rukia birth Kazuto, and then he meets Momo, and they have their own romances, and then they have their own strong kids. That's even like more peak, cause Kazuto almost like surpasses like the original timeline counterpart of Ichigo. I mean, Kazuto timeline Ichigo himself is like decently strong, but he's not on the level of his original counterpart. Cause like, but I would say like Kazuto would surpass both these two Ichigo counterparts, because he surpasses the original's like peak and the prime of his own like timelines Ichigo, so which he has done. I mean, Kazuto would stomp the original Ichigo because he has like a lot of forms, and he basically has like Goku's forms from Dragon Ball, but in reverse. So basically he gets like the Ultra Instinct counterpart first, which is God form, and then he gets the Mastered Ultra Instinct equivalent, which is the full God form, and then he gets like the Quincy, like the Hollow God form, which is basically Super Saiyan Blue, and then he gets like the Quincy God form, which is like Super Saiyan Red, and then he gets like the Soul Reaper God forms 1, 2, 4, which is basically like Super Saiyan 1, 2, 4. So basically he has like Goku's like forms, but in reverse. He like the way he gets them is the forms like basically Goku goes from like bottom form to like top form. Kazuto goes from like top form to bottom form. Like pretty much like that. And I really like his relationship with Momo. Like, they are like one of the cutest couples to ever exist. Like Kazuto like trains a lot and then trains Momo and spars with Tengu a lot because he wants to run that fade and spar and freaking prove superiority, that as the Demon Prince that he would surpass Kazuto Kurosaki, but that just never turns out the way it does. He actually just loses. And like Momo like cooks for him, and then he eats a lot of food, and then he goes back to training. But then Kazuto like also has like this burden about heroism because he has to live with the fact that a lot of people rely on him. So he's preparing like a successor to pass that burden on to his son Mokato. So whenever he's not around, Mokato would be able to defend the Earth because he would be strong enough to do it. But yeah, Kazuto is the better protagonist, even if like the original Ichigo was like the peak of his timeline. I don't care if he's like the prime of the freaking original Bleach for like 1,000 Year Blood War and shit. Kazuto Kurosaki is like a much better protagonist because he commits to being a hero like all the time. It was his like original dream, and even though he has a passion for battle, the sparring is just his way to ensure safety for the realms, which is why he has the title of God of Realms, which is one of his many titles. I'm not gonna list off all his titles because he has a lot of them, but yeah, Kazuto Kurosaki, one of my favorites, in fact, one of my favorite like protagonist characters. Like, but yeah, Kazuto's Tenpobatsu is probably like one of the most OP Zanpakutos. Like, it has like more than one element, and that's pretty sick and badass. And his like, he has like OP Shikai and like a insanely broken like Bankai. Like he can basically control like a void, and then he can control like a whole realm. And then like he would like whoop the enemy instantly. Alright guys, thanks for watching, and like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Alright, bye guys.